Hello everybody and welcome back. Today we are having an asynchronous learning day online. What that means is you will work at your own pace, watching this video and answering questions as we go. And if you answer those questions, you do not have to get them correct. You do not have to get 100%. You don't even have to get any percent. I need you to answer those questions for attendance. So you have to answer the questions that are posted on Blackboard in order to be counted as present for class today, which is October 6th. October 6th, you need to make sure you answer those questions or you will be marked absent for the day. Today we are going over Chapter 6 in the Townsend textbook. Chapter 6 in the Townsend textbook, which is Inferences. This week your only assignment is to complete, let me double check that real quick actually. We'll check on the Blackboard page at the end of class and make sure that we know everything that is going to be due for this week. So I said that the only thing you have due, but I'm not 100% sure. Let me double check that. But we're gonna get into inferences now. Make sure you have those questions pulled up. It should be a Google form that's posted on the Blackboard page under the week 7 folder. So if you have those open, you'll be good to go for class today. I'll post these slides in the week 7 folder as well, so you'll be able to follow along in case there's any reason that you're not being able to see them up here. But hopefully everything works out and we will have a good asynchronous learning day today. So to start off on those questions, go ahead and answer the first question. Make sure you type in your name. That should be the first thing that pops up and it asks you to do. It should say type your name here. The second one is, what is an inference in your own words? So what I want you to do is I want you to think. Don't research, don't look, and don't wait for me to explain it at the end, because I am not counting this for a grade. Whether you get the answers right or you get them wrong, you're going to get the same amount of attendance as everybody else for the class today. I'm really curious to know how much we already know. And as we go through the lesson, please make sure that you answer them before I tell you what the correct answer is. I don't care whether you get them all right or get them all wrong. I just want to make sure that we are monitoring progress as we go. So that's kind of on the honor system. Just answer the questions when I say to answer them, and don't change them if you get them wrong. That's all I'm asking for today. So in your own words, type down what is an inference. I'm going to pause for 5 seconds. You guys pause the video and resume it when you are done. Okay, once you finish that, we are going to talk about inferences today. So, inferences are when an author is getting a point across without directly stating it. And I know we said that that was the same thing as implied main ideas. But inferring and implying are two different things. Implying is done on the behalf of the author. So, if I am implying something, then that's when I'm stating something without having to state it. If I'm inferring something, that's when somebody else is doing, saying, or acting in some sort of way, and I'm inferring what they mean. So, when we talk about writing, implying is something that the author does, inferring is something that the reader does. So a lot of times the author is going to imply something, and we need to make sure that we are able to infer what they are talking about. And a lot of times they will be very indirect, and we're going to look at some of those examples today. The next question should ask you about a situation with a date, and this is the situation that we are talking about. So on the board it says you go on a date with somebody, and you can see them checking their watch every 5 minutes. You can hear the tone in their voice that they are not happy or excited, and when you text them the next day, they only respond with one-word answers. I want you to go ahead and type down, what can you infer from this? I think it's actually a multiple choice question. So look at the answer choices and select the answer choice that you think you could infer from this situation. I'll give you 5 seconds, pause it, look through the answers, and then we'll continue. Okay. What you should be able to infer from this situation is that they are not interested in going on another date. Okay? You can infer these things from the way that people talk, from the way that they act, from the way that they write. However, we have to infer. Context clues are very important in communicating messages to us. go ahead and do the next question. What can you infer about this cartoon? And hopefully you can see it. If you can't see it on here on the video, make sure you just go over to the slides that I've already posted so that you can see this cartoon a little bit more closely. I'll pause for another 5 seconds so that you guys can go ahead and really look at this cartoon. Okay, what you can infer from this is a lot of things, but one thing that I inferred from this particular excerpt, the dog has eaten the other dogs that were tied up to the parking meter. That's something that's not directly stated, but when you see leashes in the dog's mouth, that's what it infers. A big, mean-looking dog eating the other dogs. In reading, we make logical leaps from information stated directly into ideas stated indirectly. What does that mean? What that means is that authors are not always going to tell us everything that we need to know. So we need to use clues, experience, and logic in order to get all the information that we need to have from an excerpt. There are 3 guidelines that we can use in order to make good inferences. First, never lose sight of available information. Everything that an author says is relevant. Everything. So if you think something's irrelevant, make sure you really analyze what the author is saying so that you understand its purpose. Use your background knowledge and experience to help make inferences. A lot of times authors aren't going to give you all the information you need. They are going to rely on you having some background information on the topic. So use basic logic and your background information to connect the dots if the author's not doing it for you. Consider alternatives, not just the first inference that comes to mind. A lot of times we're going to infer one thing, but the author really wants us to get something else. So make sure that you always consider alternatives and not just the first thing that comes to mind when reading something. So what can we infer from this excerpt? This should be the 4th question, might be the 5th question on the handout. From this excerpt, the excerpt says, "When I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much the old man had learned in 7 years." Pause the video, look at the 2 answer choices, and tell me what can you infer from this excerpt. Once you're finished answering the question, go ahead and move forward in the video. So what we can infer from this one is that teenagers tend to think they know it all and that adults do not. Now, this is not directly stated in this quote. What's directly stated is that even old people are capable of learning a great deal. But that's not what the author is intending to get across. Those are the words that are being used, but it's a sarcastic quote. So instead of saying, when I got to be 21, I understood how hard it was to be an adult, and I started to understand some of the things that my dad had told me, instead of saying that, they bring it across in a very sarcastic and light-humored way. Literary figures of speech are a big way that authors can imply things and that we can infer. So, 2 types. We have similes and metaphors. So, similes are comparisons of one thing to another using words like or as. So, as tall as a mountain or soft as a pillow, those are 2 examples of similes. Metaphors do the same thing, just without the words like and as. So they are the bomb, the internet is a candy store of facts, just saying that one thing is another to compare them. Let's look at this passage and let's see if we can figure out what we can infer from this paragraph. I'll read it out loud for you. Paragraph says, suppose that you have a ticket to fly to some exotic destination. There will be 200 passengers plus crew on board your plane. But on the way to the airport, the radio program you are listening to is interrupted by an announcement that 5 U.S. jets will be hijacked that day. All will crash and all passengers and crew will die. There is no doubt that 5 planes will go down, that 1,000 terrified passengers and crew will plunge to their deaths. In spite of the threat, the airlines have decided to stay open for business. Do you still fly? After all, the chances are good that yours will not be one of the 5 planes. My best guess is that you turn around and go home, and that US airports will be eerily silent that day. Nicotine kills about 400,000 Americans each year. This is the equivalent of 5 fully loaded 200-passenger jets crashing each and every day. This is the equivalent, leaving no survivors. I apologize. Who in their right mind would take the risk that their plane will not be among those that crashed? Yet that is the risk that smokers take. So, this is a very large metaphor. What can we infer from the metaphor? Go ahead, I'm going to pause for 5 seconds. You pause the video, analyze the passage, and tell me A or B, what can we infer? Hopefully everybody was able to infer that the author is implying that Americans don't like to think about the harmful effects of smoking. So if we imagine the harmful effects of smoking in a different way using this metaphor, then the author is trying to get us to understand how dangerous smoking can be. That's the implied, or that's what we can infer from what the author is implying through this metaphor. What I want you to do is I want you to do example number 4 on your own. And like always in class, the last question you're going to do on your own. And I'm not going to give you the answer for this one. So what can you imply from the graph on the board? And before you get started, I'll go back to the graph. I want to make sure that you guys know everything that's due. I knew there was something due that wasn't just the Chapter 6 inferences. Okay, so complete the exercise, the video, and the lesson and the mastery test for Chapter 6 in the Townsend website. And also Critical Reading 2 is due tonight at midnight. Make sure you finish that as well, and make sure you answer the last question for today. What can we infer from the graph on the board? Once you are done, you can go ahead and submit that Google form, and your attendance will be logged for today. Please email me if you have any questions. If you don't have any questions, then I will see you on Monday.